I really would like to begin by just mentioning how difficult a time this is for me without having Scotty Miller here. And how he was such an integral part of the process of game day, and he was such a professional and master at his craft. And we all know how great he was professionally, but like a lot of you guys, I just miss my friend. I really do. I miss my friend, and so we're going to honor him, and our guys are doing the same thing, and we talk about it. But it's hard. I have my first radio show tonight, and it's without my friend up there, and I just want first by saying that, and excited about the season coming up, but just want to remember Scotty at this time. So we just finished practice. And it was good because we don't start classes until 4 o'clock. And so we were able to get another, quote, full day in this morning with special teams meetings, practice and stuff. And then we'll bring them back this afternoon. So they're kind of in fall camp mode all the way up till 4 o'clock to when classes start. And then we're down to 3 practices, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll continue to clean up some of the mistakes. And it's a really difficult game that we're preparing for with the difficulties of option offense and the multitude of defenses they play. So we still have a lot of work to do, and we're by no means a finished product heading into Saturday. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
Coach, Austin Koontz not listed on your 2 deep. What's going on with Austin?
Yeah, Austin is serving an NCAA academic 2-game suspension. He didn't fulfill his requirements in the classroom, and as disappointed as we are in Austin, at the end of the academic year, there was a good chance that Austin maybe would have been academically ineligible the entire year. And Austin did everything we asked of him and more this summer to regain his eligibility back. But due to NCAA rules, he'll miss the first 2 football games. And we'll kind of leave it at that. Once we get through these 2 games, then I'm behind Austin Koontz 100%. He's been a great player for us. He made some mistakes academically. He's paying the penalty through the NCAA, and once we get through Eastern Washington, then he'll be back in the fold.
Who's going to be handling kickoffs for you? Will it be Jackson or Cam?
It'll be Cam right now.
Outside of just getting the victory, what are you looking for from this first game? What little things do you want the team to do well?
I'm looking for the same things you guys are. How clean a game we play, how the young guys react. Our veteran, quote, players that have been back, are they raising their game to the next level? All the little things that you worry about. Didn't matter of what year this was, from going into the Iowa State game to going to the Montana game to this year. There's a lot of unknowns when you go into the first game of the season. And so biggest thing for us is just try to play a clean game. What I mean by that is limit penalties, don't turn the football over, and you can't give up big plays. And if you do those things, you have an opportunity to be successful.
Have you made any decisions as far as pulling red shirts in advance of this game?
Right now, I would say we would not pull any red shirts, but we're still talking about a few guys that maybe in another week.
How tough is it to prepare for a team in the first week? They've had summer, they've had spring ball, they've had their entire fall camp. I mean, how much can you rely on film versus, the wrinkles that they can throw at you?
Yeah, well, that's the only thing you can rely on, so you have to trust what your eyes tell you. But in the same respect, I know we're going to see a multitude of different things on both sides of the ball, as well as special teams that are their tweaks, just like I'm sure that when they're looking at film, they're practicing what they see, and we have some tweaks. And that's the ability to adapt and adjust is so critical early in the season. Obviously, the first game is the one that everybody points to, but throughout the first month of the season, everybody's kind of doing some different things. But this first game with the difficulty of trying to defend the option offense and the multitude of looks they have on defense, we're practicing what we're seeing, but we know we're going to have to adjust.
Is there a former opponent you'd compare this offense to? Wofford, Georgia Southern?
Probably a combination of those two. Those two would be closer in my mind than Sam Houston.
Multitude of looks defensively. Can you be more specific on that?
Okay, they'll line up in their 3-4 that you guys have seen. They'll line up in what we would call an under front. They'll line up, we call it an over front. When they are in their odd front, the blitz looks are going to come from different spots and different angles, and so we have to be prepared for that, as well as, double eagle is another form of a front where they're covering up the center and both guards. They haven't shown that as much, but we have to be prepared for that.
How has the offensive line looked so far?
We're coming along. It's been a nice 7-8 man rotation right now, where we're moving some guys around, but I've been pleased with Tanner Volson playing center. Zemer's taking a lot of snaps at center. They're both going to play. We've messed around and put Jack Plankers out at right tackle and moved Landon to left and put Luke Bacon in there some. There's a lot of different combinations that we're practicing. The game will dictate, how much we have to shuffle and move guys around. But I know Zemer will play. That's probably listed as a backup. And then I know I call it young Zach will play, who's listed as a backup.
You look at your secondary on paper, it's full of a bunch of guys who are relatively young, but they have experience. When you watch them, do they seem older than a bunch of juniors and sophomores?
Well, Trey and Robbie, they played an awful lot of football last year, and then Trey the year before. So those guys are really seasoned guys in my mind. The players behind those, whether it's the backup safeties or all of our corners, a number of those guys have seen significant snaps on special teams, which is how you usually get your start here at NDSU, is by being successful on teams, getting noticed, and then getting an opportunity to play some significant snaps on defense. So I'm pleased with the progress of Allison and Wimbush, Quentin McCoy. Darren Kelly's probably the one that doesn't have any of those game snaps. Senescar, Bachmeyer, those guys have played some special teams, but we have good competition that we're going to continue to have throughout the first month of the season to see how that really shakes itself out. We'll probably play a number of those guys.
What are the advantages of having kind of the young secondary, and you're playing a team that doesn't throw the football a ton? Is there advantages or disadvantages to having
It's a
those
big
guys?
disadvantage, I think. It scares me more because you can't get lulled to sleep and thinking this is nothing but a run offense, or you're going to get thrown over the top of all day long. And Charleston Southern does a phenomenal job with their run pass action, and if they have great speed at wide receiver, the quarterback throws the ball really well, you're going to be man-to-man an awful lot simply because of the option responsibility. So those guys will be challenged maybe 5 times, maybe twice, who knows, but they may, they're averaging maybe 20 throws a game, so it's not like it's nothing like Georgia Southern where it was 6 throws. So it's a disadvantage in my mind because they have to be right all the time. You're a pass player. For crying out loud, you're a pass player all game.
Coach, when did Colin Connor really assert himself at left tackle? Did it never drop from spring ball to the fall?
I don't think it dropped from spring ball to the fall, Dom. I think he progressed so much in spring, and then he was able to get a little bit stronger in the summer. With our captain's practices, I know he was able to get a ton of reps, and you just watch him go against Greg Menard all the time, because Greg plays on the right side for us. That's a tough task every day in practice, because Greg has column manual motor. It's just one speed, and we're rolling. And so I think he's improved dramatically just over the last 6 months.
Bachmeyer's name keeps coming up. He must have had a nice spring.
He did some really nice things on special teams last year that enabled him to get noticed, and then I think the game slowed down for him from a defense perspective in the spring, where he knew where he was supposed to be. He knew the assignments of both safeties, and he could play either safety for us. He's not as experienced, probably not as good a player right now as Trey and Robbie, but we also know we're going to need to utilize Eric, and the more repetitions he gets in practice, the more the more comfortable he's going to feel in game because of the pressure we put on him. But I envision him playing some on defense on next Saturday.
You mentioned Robbie. Is there any specific player or players that have made a big year 1 to year 2 jump, at least that your staff have noticed?
Other than Robbie?
Other than Robbie.
Well, Bruce Anderson looks like a different guy. You can tell he's been a year in the weight room. Bruce looks like a different guy. That's one guy that jumps out at me.
How has Easton progressed in the getting ready for a game plan? And what have you seen from him just in his growth there into his second year?
Yeah, I think it's great carryover from what he did those 8 games he played to, continuing to learn the offense in the spring to really trying to master it now in fall camp. So we have a number of things that we're putting on his plate for this game based on the different looks that we talked about in the front and some of the blitzes that they're going to run at us. So I think we feel really comfortable in putting the game, so to speak, in Easton's hands when you see these different looks.
Going to be able to make some of those calls out there?
Absolutely.
Coach, you talk a lot about the continuity of the staff, everybody being back and how important that is. This is year 3 for you. Getting any easier?
No, it never gets easier. it never gets easier, but it's so much fun. And that's the neat thing is we have all of our staff together for the 3rd year in a row. We fight like brothers up there, but we're all have one common goal, and that's to get these players ready to play every Saturday, and we're all on the same page. And that's the neat thing is seeing how we compete as coaches, not only in the staff room but on the practice field, but watching those coaches build bonds with other segments. That's where, when you're in it year 2, year 3, you see the defensive end coach talking with the running backs and tight ends and the O-line coach with the DBs. When you're only here a year, that's tough to do. You're trying to just get to know your own guys, but it's neat because all of our coaches, I think, are really close with all the team.
Do you feel like your offensive line is prepared to take on the challenge of Anthony Ellis and what he brings, having gone against the guys that you have on your team?
We'll find out. He's a great player, and that's going to be a big challenge. And we have a new left tackle, and we're going to have a new center. And the other 3 guys will have played a ton of snaps for us, but he'll be a handful. He's a great player.
Coach, it's the first time in 4 years the season opener is the home opener. It might sound silly, but what kind of different preparations go into for, especially with all the new video boards and stuff for Saturday night?
Well, we're excited to be playing at home for sure, and not having to worry about talking with Matt Larson about travel and where we're staying and what we're doing, and that is a great relief. And now we've been back at Gate City Bank Field for the last few practices, so our guys feeling really comfortable in that environment. Especially when you have a night game, I think it's really important that early in the season that you're at home, because there is a routine. You can go hang back out at your apartment or at your resident hall and relax, as opposed to sitting in a hotel and not sure what the environment will be. Everyone knows what the environment's going to be this Saturday, and it's going to be an electric atmosphere. But it really helps us playing at home, especially in this, quote, opening kickoff classic.
Challenge to keep the players focused, the video boards, the banner raising, national TV. I mean, this team is playing in big games, but is that always a concern when you get to something like this?
Yeah, it's always a concern, and we won't see the banner raising because we'll all be in the locker room. I know that the Fargo Dome and Rob have done a lot of things with the video board, so our guys are seeing that stuff now. We were able to get in there Saturday and take the awe factor away. There'll still be some things I'm sure that the guys may look up at on Saturday, but each day we're seeing a little bit more with the video boards, and I don't see it being a factor as far as what I thought maybe on punts, on kickoffs, on deep balls. I don't see that being a factor.
A week early before everybody for the 2nd straight year. Now you've gone through it now 2 years. You tweaked your schedule at all. And how do you address coming in a week earlier before everybody?
Well, we addressed it a couple of ways. One, we cut down some of the reps in our double rep so that we could have guys, I think, a little more fresh for this Saturday. I had a meeting with the captains last night and talked to some of the older guys throughout last week, because last week we went really hard up until that mock game, so to speak, on Saturday, and they felt much better this year than they did last year at this time heading to Montana. And if I go back and look at the tape of the Montana game, especially as the game wore on, as opposed to the practice that week before, you could tell our legs were pretty heavy. And so we've maybe cut down some of the repetition. We still were able to get our work done, but when our work was done, rather than going back and repeating 15 plays, we just cut it. And I think have the ability to get their legs back a little bit more.
When did you make that decision?
In the summer. I knew in the summer we were going to do it, and I kind of bounced it off some guys as I saw them in the weight room and stuff in the summer.
And the concern was you wouldn't get enough work in, or what was
the concern of taking the reps away? No, we had a pretty seasoned group of guys, especially in the front 7 on defense and tight ends and all that. I wanted to make sure that we didn't have those hamstring pulls when we were going on that extra 5 minutes, that we had the extra 10 or 12 reps. And when we go, we're going. If you hear Coach P or Coach Kane or Coach Ensign, I mean, we're backing the ball as fast as you can go. And so I know our guys feel a lot more fresh this year at this time than they did last year.
Any injury or availability concerns for Saturday outside of Austin?
Yeah, the only one probably right now would be Ellefson. He turned an ankle last week at practice. He was out, so we missed maybe 3 days. He was out there today, pretty limited today, but we expect him tomorrow to get some reps. And he's still behind Connor and Ilias, but he'll be ready to play. It's just a matter of how much we're able to utilize him.
What have you seen out of the growth of Jackson Koontz? Is he where you think he should be? I mean, you're replacing Ben. That's obviously not easy to do.
Yeah, that's tough. That is big shoes to fill. I love his demeanor, his personality. He and Cam are really similar. And Jackson's probably not where even he would want to be at this time. But I also know that he's going to continue to improve as the season goes along. And I think we probably over-punted him a little bit the first week, just trying to see what we had, and his leg was a little dead. So we took 4 or 5 days off. Really, Saturday and today were the first days he was back punting, and I saw a lot in his leg, a lot of life in his leg today. So I know he's going to be nervous on that first punt and going out there.
Any concern about finding enough carries for your running backs? You got a pretty good stable of 4 guys there.
Well, yes, there's always concern. Now we have a great bunch of guys that are all selfless guys. It still goes to the same formula for our success. If our completions and our carries equal 50 or more, everybody's going to have plenty of touches. If we get in a situation where we can't stop them at all on defense and they're having 10 play drives and eating up 6 minutes, 7 minutes, then we're only going to have 30 to 35 carries and completions, and that's not a good day for the Bison. So Charleston Southern led their conference in time of possession. I think we led our conference. We were pretty close to the top of the country. So we need to have the ball and possess it for a number of minutes to be able to give all those guys. And we need to see what everybody's strengths are. We think we know, Mike, but we need to find out if we can get King a little bit more on the perimeter. We need to push Lance inside a little bit more. So, ideally, you'd say, hey, give everybody 15, but that's an awful lot, and we're carrying the ball an awful lot then.
Is Bruce going to have a larger role offensively this year? I mean,
absolutely.
Massive. That's great.
Absolutely. He will have a larger role doing a variety of different things.
He's going to be bouncing around a little bit like he
You'll
has.
see Chase everywhere. You'll see Lance everywhere. You'll see Bruce everywhere. King, because King's so smart. He knows all the positions. So there's a spot for everybody, and we have them all personneled out right now. So we feel good about getting them all a lot of snaps.
Coach, you touched on it a little bit, but with that late kickoff, and it's the first game of the year, how do you keep the team from being a little bit too amped up, if that's possible?
You hope you have great veteran leadership, and I think we do with the 6 captains we have. Some of the young guys, I don't care. I mean, they're going to be amped up and ready to go. But we have 3 night games this year, so it's going to be a good thing for us as coaches to kind of see the vibe of where we're at, what do we need to adjust moving forward to the 2 later games in the season when we have night games.